Hello, everybody. Welcome to our first episode of the Homeland Divulged 2022-2023 spring semester. I'm Austin Ritchie, senior in the Homeland Security program, and I'll be one of your co-hosts. Before we get started, I'd like you to meet the rest of the team, and I'd like them to introduce themselves.
I am Quentin Sager. I'm also a senior in the Homeland Security program, and I'm also going to be one of the co-hosts.
My name is Anthony Polkowski. I am a junior in the Homeland Security program, and for this podcast, I will be production lead.
My name is Ivan Daly. I'm a junior in the program, and I'm part of the production crew.
So, Homeland Divulged is basically in connection with the Homeland Security program. Homeland Security program is a program with at Vincennes University Bachelor of Science. It covers a wide different variety of avenues. Homeland Security entails a lot of different stuff, and you'll see that within our podcast. All sorts of different topics we're going to be talking about. Ranging from police operations, major incidents within the world, whether they be terrorism, whether they be natural disasters, man-made disasters, just current events, really. Homeland Security covers it all, really.
So some topics that I'll be touching on throughout our podcast are just going to be interacting with some Homeland heroes and doing a Homeland hero segment. So one of the cool things is there's so many different agencies all combined into the Department of Homeland Security. So there's 22 of them, and I mean there's just such a different outlook from each agency, and bringing everybody in, it gives us a different look for our students as well as our listeners to like some of the things going on in our world and how it's affecting them and how to help them out, help the community out, and just overall bringing a more in-depth look of Homeland Security.
And I think another big thing, too, we like to touch on, we're definitely going to be touching on this semester, is the private sector. You know, I think when people think of Homeland Security, they think of, everything's federal. We're dealing with a lot of stuff regarding, the federal government, especially in our program. But definitely want to cover the private sector, too, and that's going to be a really big thing. Basically, what they do, I think that kind of can go under the umbrella, too, in regards to Homeland Security. So definitely going to be talking about that this semester. Hopefully we can get some individuals that are from the private sector to possibly speak about what they do. Just, again, give people a different insight, and also maybe as to what really goes into the Homeland Security area, maybe under the radar. You never really think about the guy who might be running intelligence for the private sector for, let's say, guys over in Ukraine or something like that. It's real interesting. Definitely think it would be nice to touch on that.
Yeah, we could also talk about, the public's role in Homeland Security, as I don't remember who said it, but Homeland Security is everyone. It's every American is involved in Homeland Security. So whether that be see something, say something, or just being observant or knowing what's going along around you.
Exactly. I think the big status with current events, if you may not be necessarily involved directly with what's going on, but everybody's affected by it. The price of gas changes all the time. So I mean, that's something that's involved in Homeland Security.
Yeah, and current events has a lot to do with gas prices.
Definitely, yeah. So if you're not in the know-how, you're not gonna know what's going on. So that's something we really want to look at.
And then also, like, as our podcast keeps growing, we want to reach out to our viewers, have you guys interact with us, let us know some things and topics that you want us to cover. I mean, going as far back as some of the history of Homeland Security and maybe where it began, or some of the events that terrorism is now growing, and you can look back at the norms and some of the just developments of terrorism and the trends, I guess you could say, so you can better try to predict what's going to happen and prevent it, and being a proactive person rather than reactive. That's the main goal of most of these agencies. They have counterintelligence, counterterrorism, all these different mission points trying to prevent these terrible things from happening rather than reacting and responding to them after they happen.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, with our program, we're not just looking at the book. It's history repeats itself. It's nice to see what was going on or what led to our current history, but we're keeping with the know-how, making sure we're keeping up with what's going on and what we may predict or see what's going on. It's good to look at these events and think, hey, what could be the outcome of this event? What could happen, what couldn't happen. And that's definitely a big thing with what's going on right now.
Yeah, another is not only like of what is happening, but like how it happens and like warning signs that are consistent. So we want to talk about things that, you know, you can be on the lookout for, that as an individual, like you can report and say like, you know, hey, not that anything needs to happen, but you might want to like look into this a little further. Because not only do, like I said, terrorists like have certain trends that they follow, like, you know, bombings and all that, but there's also a lot of pre-warning signs that are consistent among different terrorist groups and organizations.
And definitely, we even talked about possibly doing a little thing where it's like we give you an update about like, hey, you know, if this incident happens or if you're ever in this situation, you know, this is what you can do, and or how to react appropriately, you know. So just giving little updates like that, you know, you never know when you might need them, you know. Say, you know, how to do such and such action. You know, like, let's say if you're stuck on the side of the road, you know, what are you gonna do? You know, stuff like that. You know, make sure you pack your car with like clothes, you know, for the winter. You know, make sure you have like, you know, coat, gloves, stuff like that. Just something small like that, you know, could definitely help somebody out.
Yeah, that's the segment I look forward to the most, is just the small things that, you know, we can tell people to keep them safe and our country safe. You know, like if you're going on a, you know, we'll talk about this later in a future episode, I'm sure, but just a quick summary of the, you know, this Department of State can tell you travel advisories, you know, this country's not a good place for Americans to visit right now due to whatever reason. So like small things like that is, you know, it's something that takes 5 minutes, maybe even a minute of your time, but can affect you or someone else around you, I think is the main thing I look forward to.
Yeah, I think it's the small things like that, you know,
Yeah.
that may get overlooked definitely in Homeland Security, you know, and I guess that's a big part of Homeland Security. It's, you know, homeland, you know, it's, you know, where you are, you know, so, you know, the way your community reacts or what they know is, you know, going on, you know, that definitely helps with, you know, the overall Homeland Security, you know, so just small things like that. I think that's real cool.
And getting away from all the man-made and disasters, we're getting into the spring semester, and we're going to be getting into the heavy part of weather and thunderstorms. So, I mean, that also falls under Homeland Security. A lot of people don't realize that, but FEMA and just overall disaster management, realizing where these natural disasters could take place and how to mitigate loss of life, loss of all assets. So, I mean, it's a big thing. Also, reaching out to like our local meteorologists at local TV stations, so people can always be tapped into the local weather, knowing what's going to be coming. Because if you get caught off guard by a storm or a tornado per se, I mean, you could be looking at the loss. I mean, I look back to the video of, I think it was a couple years back, there was a truck that got caught in a tornado and flipped upside down and got flipped back onto its wheels. If he would have known, hey, there's a tornado in the area, probably wouldn't have kept driving on that road.
Maybe would have done something. Maybe would have turned off or something.
Yeah, and I think that's one reason why like a lot of people just don't know about Homeland Security, because it's such a broad term. It ranges from natural disasters to terrorist attacks to, you know, drug epidemics. It's not, and there's no possible way we can cover it all.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people, when they hear Homeland Security, they immediately think, oh, terrorism. You know, I think September 11th really pounded that into people's heads. You know, like, hey, you know, this is what this entails, but it's a lot. Yeah, it's a lot more than that. Definitely.
Yeah, you have. I mean, after the Department of Homeland Security was enacted, and right after 9/11, it was a anti-terrorism approach all the way up until Hurricane Katrina hit, and then it really became an all-hazards approach, looking at every single threat, vulnerability, and trying to mitigate all those losses and trying to help Americans just survive through the hardships that, I mean, are inevitable in our everyday life now. So it's just knowing what to expect and how to respond and being resilient after disaster does strike.
Just anything in general that can harm American citizens or, you know, health and safety, really. Anything.
And I think another big thing too, I think we kind of touched on it too, was the talking to people in the community, just having people come in and talk to us. And I think even having people that are within our current community and within our program, the Vincennes University program, you know, just coming in and talking to us, you know, those roundtable discussions. Really, I think it allows people, one, it allows outreach, and two, it allows different types of conversation, allows different viewpoints, I think, and that's another really big thing, especially with, you know, regards to current events and, you know, what we cover. I think outreach and letting people just aside from us just talking the program, is real nice. So I look forward to that as well.
Absolutely. And then you look at, I mean, another segment we will cover is going to be cold cases and trying to help get information out to, especially in our local area, but even if it becomes a nationwide thing where we can get information out and try to help solve these cold cases, that's going to be another big area that we try to hit on. And current events, like they said, is going to be a big one. And we might try to use our background and our education to predict maybe some things that could happen in the future and just have a roundtable type activity where we discuss, hey, maybe this could happen and maybe this could happen, but let's watch out for maybe something else that could come in and play a big part in this, and watch out for how you can mitigate that and this and that. So that's another big part that we'll be talking about on our podcast.
And the going back to the cold cases, we recently were able to speak to the Jobin family, and we'd like to speak to the chief of police in regards to that case for this specific semester. And I mean, that's a case that hits back home to Vincennes. So definitely that's right there, just getting the word out and being able to speak to those people who were involved with that. I think it could go leaps and bounds. It could make a really big impact. One, getting people, the story out there, letting them know about it, keeping the memory alive for those cases. Because, they're, like you said, they're cold cases. If we don't do anything about it, they're going to stay that way. So I think definitely speaking about them, that's something, you probably don't think of if you're in the Homeland Security, area. When you're thinking about Homeland Security, you wouldn't think of cases like that. So I think being able to definitely talk about that's a totally different approach than what you'd usually think of. And I think it allows people to get an insight into it.
Yeah, and we're Homeland Security, but also just the public safety realm as well. I mean, it's health and human services all the way down to trying to just keep people healthy and well. I mean, every once in a while we might find health and wellness tips to throw out there for you guys, and just different things for overall health and safety. It's not got to be also focused on just one thing, like maybe terrorism or any other natural disasters, but just a overall more a specific scope, but more of a broad scope of just keeping everybody healthy and safe.
Yeah, I mean, definitely I can say from one example, the reason what we're coming up with this semester, we held it, I think, last year at a Sigma Iota, where our fraternity, we're holding Stop the Bleed event. We plan to hold that, pretty soon with the Good Samaritan Hospital, and just basic knowledge of how to stop a bleed in an incident. That could go pretty far. If you're in that situation, just knowing that knowledge and knowing what to do and how to react. That's something real small. That most people wouldn't think about. Like, oh, I can take care of that. But if you actually did that little bit of training, for like 30 minutes or so, what to do, how to appropriately deal with that situation. Something as small as that, that can go pretty far. And that's, like you said, that's just something real small that you wouldn't really think of if you're in the Homeland Security program, or if you're thinking about Homeland Security from an outside perspective. So definitely, there's a bunch of stuff we can cover.
Yeah, I once heard a paramedic say, there's a very simple, set of instructions we follow when treating every patient. Step 1 is control the bleeding. Step 2, everything else. Mm-hmm. So knowing to stop someone from bleeding out is definitely a very important skill.
Yeah, and there's a lot of different stuff, that we can cover.
Being CPR certified is another big one. I mean, we see how that saves so many people, and it's just vital. I mean, just one comes to mind. It was nationally televised when Monday Night Football, when Damar Hamlin went down, and CPR saved his life. I mean, if it weren't for those trained professionals, and who knows what would have happened. So it's so vital that people keep going, just everyday citizens. It's so important because you could be at the grocery store and somebody could go into cardiac arrest. It's so important that knowing those skills could legitimately save somebody's life.
And that's another thing we could, touch upon. You said like football. Like a lot of people like they go to football, they go to like NASCAR, but they don't ever understand the safety precautions and that go behind it. The safety teams and safety teams are doing more than just watching what's on the field or the track. They're watching the outside, making sure no one's going to try anything, no one's going to run across the field that could injure the players or themselves.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like I said, I keep coming back to it. What we're talking about, this is stuff that you wouldn't normally think about, especially from a Homeland Security perspective. like I said, everybody thinks, terrorism, they think natural disasters, just, basic security procedures for like a motor speedway in Indy, like that's just something, that we never really, consider, but it's a major factor, especially for security of, large amounts of people, those big venues. I mean, that's just something right there. I mean, there's so much we could talk about.
And like, countrywide events like the Super Bowl or the Golden Globes or
All the national special security events, absolutely.
oh yeah, I've talked to people that don't even know that during the Super Bowl there's a no-fly zone over the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I never even, thought about that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and I mean, the technological advances in Homeland Security are also him talking about the no-fly zone. There's drones now that are being used for surveillance and intelligence operatives. I mean, it's just the way that the field has advanced since it was first brought to life really after 9/11. It's come a long way, but there's still a lot to be done to further progress and improve to keep from, I mean, I keep saying the word mitigate. It's just really, this field has become more proactive, but it can even be more proactive in keeping the events from happening rather than responding to them.
I could say a big thing for me too, and I hope a lot of our listeners too, is just learning, just constantly learning. I'm a senior in the program, and there's still stuff that I learn every day, going to the classes or doing my own research, and it's real nice to, learn something new every once in a while, especially about this topic. If you're interested in this topic, it's always nice to learn something new. And I really look forward to sharing a lot of the information that we can gain and just talking about this stuff. Because there's just so much going on out there.
Absolutely. And another one, like I said already, getting our viewers involved. You guys can contact us. We'll have contact information out for ways you guys can also send in stuff you want to hear talked about or covered, or if there's a current case being covered or national coverage and you just don't understand what's going on, maybe we can get in contact with people and divulge the information that we find so you guys can see what's going on.
That's another thing that I think we've touched on, but we want to bring in guest speakers. Eta Stigma Iota brings in a lot of guest speakers from all sorts of different departments to the campus, but we could probably see if we could get them on the podcast for a little bit as well.
Oh yeah, I think that'd be fun. Yeah, because like we say, this semester, this 2023 semester, we got some big speakers coming in so far. And I definitely think if we can have some people from, like I said, the private sector, just different avenues come in and talk. One, I think it'd give an interesting, look at the Homeland Security area from, an outside perspective. You might not have thought of somebody doing corporate security or something as somebody in the Homeland Security enterprise, or somebody doing one real cool one, I think, is casino security. You never really think about that. That's a real cool one. All the stipulations they got to do, and all the stuff they got to cover. You never really think about that. Your mind might immediately go to someone working in DEA or something along those lines. And that's pretty cool too. But think about some of the other areas you could look at as well.
Absolutely. And another thing that comes to mind is, as a Homeland Security Department, we have our Capstone Community Academy coming up in March. It's going to be March 28th and March 30th, and it's covering all the social issues. And we're keeping it local to southern Indiana, southwest Indiana, southeastern Illinois, and it's just all of the issues directly affecting our community and how we can spark a change for the better in our communities and really begin to see the light restored in our communities in such a dark time. Just bringing joy back to our communities in a variety of different ways. So that's another thing to think about if you're in the area, or I mean, even if you wanted to take some time coming to an event like that and just gaining a more knowledge and educating yourself on some of the issues that are going on in your community and how you can maybe help be the change.
I could say so far we're a few weeks into that program, and some of the topics we've come up with and what we're talking about, I never really thought about them, until we brought them up. And we'll go further into that, once we get further into that and start continuing to go on with this program, we'll eventually talk about that. But yeah, that program has really opened my eyes a lot about different stuff that's going on in southern Indiana that I didn't really think about, and I think that's going to be really interesting. It's going to be a nice program. Definitely can't wait to talk about that.
Absolutely.
All right, well, looks like that's all we got time for today. So I think we covered a lot of different stuff today, guys. So I look forward to continuing to talk this semester and the 2023 spring semester for the Homeland Divulged program. If you're looking for us, you can find us on YouTube. You can find us on Instagram and Facebook at VU Homeland. That's our main page, and you can contact us there. And so we look forward definitely to looking and talking to you guys later on. If you guys want to say any final remarks.
Just like I said one last time, if you guys have any topics you want covered or anything like that, just shoot us a direct message on our Facebook page or Instagram or anything like that, and we will get back with you if it's something we can talk about. There's certain things we probably can't talk about just with depending on what it is, but if we can talk about it, we'll get back with you guys and absolutely set up a time to find more information on it and bring that to our listeners.
Sounds good. Well, thank you guys. We appreciate it. And we look forward to talking to you this semester. That is VU Divulged, Homeland Divulged.